A box with a yellow and brownish appearance emitted a yellowish aura, surrounded by darkness. Gradually, the area around the box began to light up, and small firefly-like yellow entities started to appear. Once the surroundings brightened, numerous warriors were revealed, standing guard around the boxes. These warriors were resolute in their determination to protect the boxes from an imminent threat. Among them, a warrior with charming red eyes and a pink aura surrounding him had drawn his sword. He spoke of how some fought for justice while others fought for evil, then proceeded to slash down a multitude of his foes in a single strike. As the warrior pushed through the onslaught of incoming enemies, the lifeless bodies of his fallen adversaries piled up behind him. The warrior joined forces with 4 friends, standing side by side, gazing up at a mysterious figure with long black hair, dressed entirely in black. Great sects and experts from 5 families came together to form an alliance dedicated to preserving peace in Murim. Many minor sects and clans united under the banner of justice, creating the Murim Alliance of Orthodox Way. Kwon Yoon, a warrior from Wudong, emerged as the first leader of the Murim Alliance and led the charge against the demon cult. Unbeknownst to many in Murim, a secretive organization called the Black Flower League operated in the shadows. The Murim Alliance represented the light, while the Black Flower League was its shadowy counterpart, tasked with 3 primary responsibilities: assassination, bribery, and espionage. Due to the formidable power of the Black Flower League, it struck fear into the hearts of the evil faction and the demon cult. The enigmatic leader of this secret organization was known as Captain Gwi Myeondok. He concealed his identity behind a white ghost mask, adorned with 2 serpentine curves framing the eyes and facing toward the mask's ears. Captain Gwi Myeondok's true face remained unknown to the world. The alliance leader, Kwok Yoon, stood facing the cliff when the leader of the Black Flower League approached him from behind, seeking his attention. Captain Gwi Myeondok addressed his leader as Master, and the leader inquired if he needed to wear a mask in front of his own master. The captain remained speechless for a moment but then spoke up, explaining that he dared not remove the mask during his missions. The leader remarked that it had been 20 years since Captain Gwi had taken on the role of leading the Black Flower League. Captain Gwi remained silent, and the leader continued, stating that the war with the demon cult was nearly settled, rendering the operations of the Black Flower League unnecessary. Furthermore, the leader questioned whether it was time for the captain to cease his wicked activities. Captain Gwi replied that he was fine with it. The leader gazed deep into the captain's eyes through the mask's eye holes and expressed that it was not fine for the leader himself to have his disciple continue such wicked deeds. The captain asked if that was an order from his master, prompting the leader to reminisce about the time he had rescued the captain as a small child. Kwon Yoon, the leader and master, emphasized the importance of nurturing young students for the future, especially now that peace was returning to Murim. Kwon Yoon revealed his intention to establish a martial academy to train young students for whatever challenges might arise in the future. The leader informed the captain that experts from the Murim Alliance would be invited to serve as teachers to guide the children. He then turned to the captain and asserted that the captain, too, would become a teacher. The captain appeared bewildered and hesitant, but the leader made it clear that it was an order rather than a mere request. The captain removed his mask, complying with the order, and accepted it. News of the establishment of a martial school called the White Military Academy quickly spread throughout Murim. Families and clans across Murim swiftly made their moves. On the ground, a boy named Mae Namgung, dressed in blue and white, lay panting. A lady hurriedly approached him, addressing him as the young master. She inquired if he had been training there on his own. Mae raised his hand to indicate that he had been practicing alone. He admitted that he needed to work harder, acknowledging that he was not a genius like his elder siblings. The lady tried to console the young boy. The Namgung family was one of the 5 great families and had become a powerful pillar of the justice faction in the war against the demon cult. The current leader of the Namgung family was Jo Namgung. All of Jo Namgung's children were peerless geniuses and recognized as leaders of the next generation, except for the youngest male among them. Mae Namgung was a lackluster child with unimpressive skills. Mae inquired if the nanny had something to say, to which she exclaimed that she might have forgotten to inform him that the family's leader had requested all the children to gather together. Mei wondered why their father had summoned them. In his official chamber, Jo Namgung, surrounded by all his children, read aloud from a scroll that revealed the Murim Alliance's plan to establish a martial institute called the White Military Academy to train martial artists. Il Namgung, the eldest child, expressed his desire to represent the family at the military academy. Seon Namgung, Jo Namgung's second child, asked Il if he believed Seon would be better suited for the position. Gwi Myeondok, the third child, taunted the elders, questioning if they were too old for the role. Hai Namgung, the fourth child, silenced them, reminding everyone that their father, Jo Namgung, as the leader of the Namgung family, would make the decision. Mei Namgung, the fifth child, felt as if he didn't matter much in this decision-making process. Leader Jo explained that he could only send one person, but there were 5 candidates for the position. Il Namgung eagerly volunteered, but Jo silenced him forcefully. All the children appeared apprehensive as Jo raised his voice to silence Il. Jo Namgung pointed his finger at Mei Namgung, the fifth child who had previously felt overlooked, and declared that Mei would be the family's representative. Mei seemed taken aback by his father's decision, and Jo Namgung made it emphatically clear that Mei would represent the family at the White Military Academy. Mei acknowledged his father's decision, and from Il Namgung's expression, it was evident that he disagreed with the choice. In the training quarters of the Namgung family, Illinois Namgung and Mei Namgung engaged in combat. Il Namgung skillfully employed his heavenly sword art and unleashed the twin dragon twister against his brother, Mei Namgung. As Il used the twin dragon twister, his eyes gleamed with intensity. The powerful shockwave generated by the attack rippled through the vicinity around Mei Namgung, leaving him in a state of shock, fear, and disbelief. Mei trembled with fear as he contemplated the devastating potential of that attack. Il, sheathing his sword, expressed his inability to comprehend their father's reasons for sending Mei as the family's representative. Mei realized that this was the reason Il had attacked him. Il went on to explain that Mei's lack of skill would bring shame to their family name and suggested that Mei should return home voluntarily after 3 months. He also mentioned his intention to persuade their father upon Mei's return and asked if Mei disagreed with this plan. Mei assured his brother that he did not object. Il left the training quarters after delivering his threat, leaving Mei behind. Mei eventually arrived at the headquarters of the Murim Alliance. As he gazed up at the grand entrance of the Murim Alliance, he was struck by the magnificence of the place. He wondered if all the people gathered there had come to join the military academy. Mei couldn't help but see himself as the weakest among them, leading him to question whether his father had chosen him for this reason. Meanwhile, people around him were introducing themselves and striking up conversations. One boy introduced himself as Xian, the second son of Seo Jiam. Another boy mentioned he was from the Sword Sect, and someone else revealed they hailed from Guangzhou. Mei pondered if making friends involved in these kinds of interactions and assumed that some of the attendees must come from prestigious families and sects, just like him. Mei's attention was suddenly grabbed by something extraordinary happening nearby. A person wielding a massive sword commanded the crowd to be silent and pay attention. This person introduced themselves as Gung-Mae and stated that they had been summoned by the academy to serve as one of the teachers for the attendees. The onlookers were in awe as Gung-Mae, a renowned figure in the Murim Alliance who had defeated numerous evil adversaries, would be one of their instructors. Someone in the crowd expressed their gratitude, mentioning that they had pleaded with their father to allow them to attend. Gung-Mae proceeded to explain that they were at the headquarters of the Murim Alliance and would be entering the White Military Academy, an educational institution under the Murim Alliance, to learn martial arts and refine their skills. He urged them to pay close attention and revealed that they had been randomly assigned to squads, instructing them to check the list and proceed accordingly. The White Military Academy comprised 12 distinct classes, each named after one of the 12 zodiac signs: rat, tiger, rabbit, ox, horse, dog, monkey, pig, rooster, dragon, goat, and snake. Students were searching for their names on the list and making their way to their designated classes. Mei discovered that he was in the snake class and felt a surge of excitement at the prospect of having a great figure like Gung-Mae, a renowned chevalier, as one of their teachers. He couldn't help but entertain this possibility. A pillar adorned with an entwined snake symbolized the snake group assembly area of the White Military Academy. Suddenly, a voice asked if everyone was present. The students, seeing no one but themselves, wondered where the voice had originated. Then, a man leaped from the top of a cliff to the snake group assembly grounds, emitting a formidable amount of internal energy. The students were taken aback and began to speculate if he was their teacher. One student, trying to be respectful, asked the man's name. The man introduced himself as Yang Junghyuk, also known as the Young Sword Ghost, a rising sword master. The students were thrilled to see him but were slightly puzzled when he clarified that he was not their main teacher but their assistant instructor. Mei couldn't help but wonder about the strength of their actual teacher if Yang, who seemed like a grandmaster, was only the assistant. He hoped to grow stronger under a grandmaster's guidance during his 3-month stay and believed that his brother Illinois would acknowledge his strength once he had trained under such a master. Yang informed the students that their assigned teacher was a legendary figure within the Murim Alliance, known for single-handedly defeating the leader of the Blood Demon and playing a crucial role in the victory of the Murim Alliance. He had also been the vanguard in the Battle of the East Sea and had halted the march of the demon cult in the Central Plains. Yang revealed that their teacher was Gwi Myeondok, the captain of the Black Flower League. Yang introduced their teacher and urged the students to greet him as he approached the snake group assembly grounds. The students found it challenging to believe all the accomplishments attributed to their teacher and were curious to learn more about him as a person. As their teacher, Captain Gwi Myeondok, approached emitting a blue aura, the students were visibly surprised by his introduction. Gwi Myeondok, dressed in black, appeared somewhat feeble and lethargic as he introduced himself as their teacher for the snake group. His casual introduction caught everyone off guard, and the students struggled to reconcile this unassuming figure with the legendary accomplishments they had just heard about. Leader Kwon Yoon, engrossed in writing, suddenly felt a chill enveloping him. He rose from his seat and glanced at his work. Holding the paper in his hand and reviewing its contents, he mused that he had requested Gwi to remove his mask. The leader speculated that it might be acceptable for Gwi to unveil his face. Gwi Myeondok appeared frail, leaving the students bewildered. Their teacher seemed weak and feeble, in stark contrast to their assistant teacher, who appeared stronger. The assistant teacher proceeded to introduce the students to Gwi Myeondok, explaining that Gwi Myeondok had joined the White Military Academy at the recommendation of the Alliance leader. Yang, the assistant teacher, inquired if the students were familiar with the Black Flower League. The students were puzzled by this unfamiliar term and had reservations about whether the seemingly weak teacher was indeed their instructor. One student even suggested that the teacher might be suffering from a severe illness. Another speculated that the teacher might be testing them by pretending to be weak. Yang, addressing the students as fools, silenced their discussions and instructed them to greet the teachers. The students were pushed back by the sheer force of Yang's voice. Mei expressed disappointment at their teacher fainting due to the assistant teacher's powerful voice. Yang swiftly caught the fallen teacher and inquired about his well-being, further perplexing the students. The assistant teacher cautioned the students that ignoring their teacher would be a sign of disrespect. The warning resonated with the students, who fell into a hushed silence. Yang then confirmed if they had understood his instructions, and the students assured him that they had indeed comprehended everything clearly. The assistant teacher announced that he would be taking attendance and began to call out the students' names. As he called out the name Bo Morong, a hushed awe fell over the students. They were astonished to hear the name Bo Morong. One student from the crowd inquired if Bo Morong was the young dragon from the Morong family, one of the 5 greatest families. Another student chimed in, mentioning that Bo Morong was rumored to be a genius with a charming face and a remarkable personality. There was a collective sense of injustice among the students, questioning why they were being compared to someone like Bo Morong. Mei wondered if this Bo Morong was the same child from the Morong family. He recalled his father's strained relationship with the head of the Morong family and wondered if Bo would harbor any animosity toward him, given their father's mutual dislike. Then, the name Pyo-won was called. The students were surprised to learn that Pyo was from the Shaolin sect, a central pillar of Orthodox Murim. It was unusual for Shaolin monks to leave their sect and interact with the outside world to maintain their neutrality. One student marveled at the greatness of the White Military Academy, while Pyo expressed his intention to showcase Shaolin sect martial arts, believing the students had never witnessed them. Next on the roll call was Mi Jae-gal, a member of the Jae-gal family, another of the 5 great families known for their proficiency in both literature and martial arts. A student mentioned seeing her at the Jae-gal family tournament, prompting another student to question whether the claim was true. Mei revealed that he and Mi were close when they were children. As the roll call continued, Mei Namgung's name was called. Everyone in the room looked at him in massive surprise, wearing startled expressions on their faces. One student wondered if Mei was also known as the shame of the Namgung family, leaving Mei to ponder why he was so infamous. Another student mentioned hearing that Mei was talented in his childhood but had suddenly become mediocre at some point in his life, deeming him a disgrace to one of the 5 great families. The discussion among the students led to speculations about Mei having no qi, which left them wondering about the possibility of someone lacking qi. The assistant teacher intervened to silence the students, revealing that he had been conducting the roll call, not the assistant teacher. The teacher announced that the attendance was complete, with 10 students present. The assistant teacher expressed concern about the teacher's strange behavior, to which the teacher whispered something in his ear. As a result, the assistant teacher concluded the class for the day, instructing the students to return to their dorms, pack their bags, and await further announcements regarding the next class. Mei couldn't help but feel surprised that their day had consisted solely of attendance taking. As they entered the academy dormitories, the contrast between the grandeur of the Murim Alliance entrance and the dorms struck them. The dorms felt more like a warehouse than a place of residence. Each student settled into their respective beds. 2 students whose beds were next to Bo Morong speculated that Bo probably didn't fancy the dorms, considering it must have felt like a downgrade compared to the Morong residence. Meanwhile, Bo Morong began meditating on his bed, impressing his fellow students, who were still getting settled. They wondered what drove Bo to meditate without taking a break. With judgmental looks, the 2 students turned their attention to Mei Namgung, comparing him unfavorably to Bo. They noted the stark contrast between Bo, regarded as a genius, and Mei, labeled as a deadbeat. One of their friends chimed in, stating that Mei was supposedly even worse than students from minor sections. Mei couldn't help but hear their conversation, and he glanced toward Bo Morong. Mei recalled hearing about Bo from his older brother and mused that if Bo were as old as his brother, they might make a good match. It was the first time his older brother had acknowledged someone, and Mei set a 3-month deadline for himself to become strong enough to earn recognition. He dedicated his days to continuous training while waiting for the announcement of the next class. During this time, Pyo-won watched over Mei as he trained, offering no words but silently observing his efforts. One impatient student broke the silence, shouting his frustration, questioning why they were being made to wait so long for the next class announcement. Another student tried to calm him down, reminding him that the teachers had asked them to wait for further instructions. The same student expressed his frustration, suggesting that the Murim Alliance name was just a facade to attract students, and criticized the management. From his resting position in bed, another student commented that he would fundamentally change himself if he were to enroll. Some students began making plans to venture outside the academy instead of waiting, mentioning a famous restaurant in the Hunan region. They even considered approaching the girls' dormitory to ask for companionship on their outing. Some of the students who had initially proposed this idea found it appealing and supported the plan. Mei continued to practice tirelessly, paying no heed to whether it was day or night. After a week of anticipation, the assistant teacher finally entered their dorm room and ordered everyone to assemble on the training grounds. Excitement rippled through the students at the prospect of the next class. Mei, too, felt relief that the long week of waiting was coming to an end. They wondered if it was finally time for their first class at the White Military Academy. Mei resolved to ensure that his older brother would recognize him. The teacher began calling out the names of specific students, including Bo Morong, Mi Jae-gal, Pyo-won, and Eun Ryong. Confusion spread among the students as they wondered if this was another round of attendance taking and questioned the teacher's fixation on the matter. To their shock, the teacher declared that all the students whose names he hadn't called had failed and should prepare to return home. Mae's heart sank at the thought of having to go home in a week instead of the 3 months he had anticipated. He worried about how his older brother would react to the news. Other students also sought clarification from the teacher, asking what he meant by failing the class. One student pointed out that they had never heard of such a selection procedure for admissions to the White Military Academy and criticized the absurdity of the situation. They argued that they had followed instructions by waiting in their dormitory and couldn't fathom what they had done wrong. Some students accused the teacher of trying to eliminate those who didn't belong to prestigious sects or families. Yang Jung-hyuk, the assistant teacher, drew his sword in a threatening stance as the students questioned the teacher. However, the teacher intervened, calming Jung-hyuk and allowing him to sheath his sword. The teacher explained that the students had the right to know why they had failed. He agreed with the teacher's decision, and Jung-hyuk complied. The teacher revealed that he had been observing the students for the past week, studying their habits, personalities, specialties, and even their lifestyles. He claimed that he could discern a lot about each of them. This revelation left Mae and the other students who had failed astonished. The only ones who had detected they were under observation were Bo Morong, Mi Jae-gal, Pyo Won, and Eun Ryong. Bo Morong meditated in his dorm, but he soon sensed he was being observed. Without hesitation, he unsheathed his sword, ready to confront the intruder. To his surprise, the observer turned out to be none other than the assistant teacher, Yang Jung-hyuk, who swiftly escaped the dorm before Bo could apprehend him. Similarly, Mi Jae-gal was engrossed in a game of checkers and reading a book when she felt as if someone was watching her from the trees. In retaliation, she hurled a piece of checkers towards the trees. Pyo Won, too, sensed that he was being observed, prompting him to climb onto the building's rooftops and conceal himself there. Eun Ryong hid beneath a table when she felt someone watching her every move. The students were surprised by the explanation for their class failure, and Mae felt guilty and disbelieving that he hadn't even noticed. The teacher asked if the students now understood why they had failed the class. In response, the students argued that they hadn't been informed about any test and found it unfair to fail without their knowledge. Multiple students contended that it was unjust for their teacher to fail them when they hadn't even known they were being tested. The teacher replied that they believed it was unfair simply because he hadn't disclosed that it was a test. However, he offered the failed students another chance. He declared that the students would spar with assistant Yang Jung-hyuk to regain their positions in the academy. To pass, they only needed to land a successful hit or even just touch him. The students found themselves in confusion about facing a duel with the young sword ghost, Yang Jung-hyuk. They believed they were in a no-win situation, with no difference between fighting Yang Jung-hyuk and failing the class. Some even contemplated returning home, fearing repercussions with their masters. However, one student expressed hope, saying that he just needed a single successful hit to regain his position in the academy, insisting that he still had a chance. With determination, the students drew their wooden swords and faced the assistant teacher. Surprisingly, the assistant teacher remained composed, despite sparring against multiple students simultaneously. He asked the teacher for permission to begin. With a touch of sarcasm, the assistant teacher picked up a twig from the ground, deeming it sufficient for the challenge. He taunted the students, questioning if they were truly afraid of facing him armed only with a small twig. The students were indeed apprehensive about confronting someone as formidable as Yang Jung-hyuk. Remembering that the assistant teacher had allowed them to attack together, the students believed that teamwork might offer a slim chance of victory. They launched a coordinated assault on the assistant teacher, who wielded the twig instead of a sword. Despite their efforts, the assistant teacher effortlessly deflected their attacks, showcasing his expertise, while the students appeared as mere novices. Yang Jung-hyuk admonished the students, dispelling their illusions of victory. He scoffed at the idea of using his full skills, considering it a waste on students of their level. When a student attempted a force palm attack, the assistant teacher swiftly dodged, mocking the student's technique as mere clapping. Another student attacked with a 10-wind sword, but the assistant teacher easily evaded the strike. Despite employing various techniques, the students failed to land a single blow on the assistant teacher. Mei, meanwhile, observed and noticed that the assistant teacher consistently maintained a hair's breadth of distance, evading their attacks with minimal effort. Mei realized that the assistant teacher relied on simple movements, always staying just out of reach. As the students grew tired and exhausted, they collapsed onto the ground. In disappointment, young Jung-hyuk questioned if they were already fatigued, even though only an hour and a half had passed. The students, discouraged and beaten, began to lose hope. One student compared the assistant teacher's strength to their sect leaders, emphasizing the vast skill gap. Feeling defeated, some students contemplated giving up. Just as teacher Gwi Myeondok was about to announce the results, Mei intervened, expressing his determination to continue the fight against the assistant teacher. Mei, gasping for breath and taking long, labored breaths, assumed an attacking stance against his assistant teacher. Young Jung-hyuk, the assistant teacher, couldn't help but wonder why Mei hadn't given up yet, noticing how irregular and strained Mei's breathing had become. He believed Mei had exhausted all his chi and questioned why he persisted despite appearing completely drained. Mei struggled to find a way to pass. He observed that the assistant teacher had been evading their attacks solely through footwork, without relying on chi. Mei concluded that the teacher was preemptively reading their movements and realized that there was only one way to land a blow or touch. He decided to concentrate all his remaining chi on his footwork to match the assistant teacher's movements. Young Jung-hyuk cautioned Mei, suggesting that sometimes giving up was the right choice. Nevertheless, Mei propelled himself towards the assistant teacher with all his might. Once again, the teacher effortlessly dodged the attack, highlighting Mei's status as a beginner. Mei contemplated that if he could anticipate the teacher's retreat direction, he might succeed in landing a touch or blow. Impressed, the assistant teacher praised Mei's strategy of predicting the direction of the teacher's retreat. However, he also pointed out that Mei lacked the chi to support his strategy, despite its effectiveness. Mei realized that he needed to utilize even more chi to pass the test, despite his father's warnings against overusing it. He feared failing at his current rate, so he made the difficult decision to unleash his chi. Surprised by Mei's newfound determination, the assistant teacher urged him to give up, clearly concerned about the sudden change he observed in Mei. In the past, Mei Namgung was engaged with a lady who kindly offered him a candy-like pink ball, emphasizing its health benefits. Being a child, Mei readily accepted the candy and consumed it. Meanwhile, at the Namgung residence, numerous individuals rushed to the chamber of the Namgung family leader to inform him of an emergency. The elders quickly gathered in the leader's chamber, where the leader inquired about the nature of the emergency. Their concern centered on young Master Mei, who appeared to be seriously unwell. Jo Namgung, the leader of the Namgung family and Mei Namgung's father, demanded an explanation for the situation. The elders offered their apologies and explained that young Master Mei seemed to have been poisoned. Jo Namgung, seething with anger, demanded to know who had dared to commit such an act within the Namgung residence. He ordered his subordinates to locate and apprehend the perpetrator, vowing to kill them himself. However, one of the soldiers pointed out the challenge of identifying the poisoner amidst a mansion full of guests, especially with young Master Mei's birthday celebration approaching. As Mei Namgung writhed in agony, coughing up blood, the elderly elder suggested prioritizing Mei's condition over the search for the culprit. Mei continued to cough violently, expelling blood. In response, Leader Jo ordered the retrieval of all available herbs within the Namgung residence to treat Mei's poisoning. The elderly elder expressed reservations about classifying it as a typical poison, sensing that something was amiss. When questioned by the Namgung family leader, the elder clarified that while it exhibited poison-like symptoms, it was not a conventional poison. Instead, it seemed like an invasive qi that sought to merge with Mei's qi center. Leader Jo Namgung speculated that it might be a qi-dispersing poison, but the elder dismissed this possibility, explaining that if it were, it should have dissipated after scattering Mei's qi throughout his body. The Namgung family leader acknowledged the gravity of the situation and insisted on halting the invasive qi at all costs. He urged Mei to endure the pain as they initiated the healing process, pleading with him not to succumb. Mei's qi appeared tainted by a dark, pollutant qi, dividing his qi center into two halves, the upper part black and the lower part white, resembling a yin-yang symbol. Even though he healed Mei, he informed him, He won't be able to cultivate chi from today onwards because the more he will use it, the more rampant it will go inside his body.
What lies ahead for them as they venture into this mystical world? What do you think will happen next? Don't forget to hit the like button, comment if you want to continue this series, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.